Fantastic. Okay. Thanks for everyone attending. I can see the numbers coming up. I will give it another 10 seconds until we ensure everyone's in the room. Fantastic. Welcome everyone, welcome, welcome. We're just about to kick off in the next 20 seconds or so. It's an extraordinary turnout, so appreciate everyone taking their time to join us for today. So welcome to the first of many talks in the Performance Matters series, where we aim to bring you the latest trends in performance data for what really matters to gamers. My name is Jazz Chana and I'm a senior consultant at GameBench, based in London, and I'll be a moderator for today. And I am thrilled to be joined by not only a fantastic panel, but then also Shri, who is co-hosting from LA and is the founder behind GameBench. So we expect to have a riveting discussion on building adoption in cloud gaming. Now, for some housekeeping, we will have Q&A at the end. So please have your questions ready. You can share them in the Q&A box. You can follow GameBench on social media across LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube if you search for GameBench Labs. And one of our key strengths is industry collaboration. So if there's anything you'd like us to cover in future panels, please let us know. And next week, we are releasing a light paper covering the important things that matter to deliver a smooth cloud gaming experience, along with gamer-centric metrics. And as a thank you for joining us today, you'll be the first to get a copy. So back to today, we have pulled together not only a great panel who are enabling the cloud gaming ecosystem, but also in the audience, we are joined by people from around the world, from engineers to marketers, who are curious about creating and developing a great gamer experience. So let's kick off by meeting our panelists for today. Let's start with Candice. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi there. My name is Candice, and I'm head of market analysis at Newzoo. And we at Newzoo, we are industry analysts, and we have a host of different products across games and esports data. And we also have a lovely cloud gaming report, which covers the industry and forecasting.
Fantastic. Matt, would you like to go next?
Sure. Matthew Wallace at AT&T. I'm within our consumer mobility organization specializing in 5G products. Our aim is to develop new products and services for our customers that really showcase the power and capabilities of 5G and converged access of 5G networks and our fiber networks as well.
Fantastic. Patrick, would you like to go next?
Hey guys, this is Patrick Beaulieu. I'm from NVIDIA, and I manage relationship with our strategic partners for the cloud gaming business. I've been with the company for more than a decade now, and involved in multiple aspects of the technology associated with cloud gaming. I remember 8 years ago when I saw a first prototype of that, I had to look under the table because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was real, and so it has improved so much since then. So I look forward to discussing that with this group of people today.
Fantastic. And Gino, last but not least.
Hi, so my name is Gino Dion. I'm the head of innovation solutions at Nokia. And my job is really to provide an R&D sandbox to work with inside within Nokia, as well as industry partners on developing new technology. So I'm an avid gamer myself with my own Twitch streaming channel. Not that I'm going to publicize it today, but the last 2 years, what I've been focused on is really educating both internally and externally of what do service providers and equipment makers need to do to provide a better gaming experience. What does matter? What technology does and why it matters to gamers.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone for that. So to help set the scene for today's discussion, Shri, would you like to share some opening thoughts about the direction that cloud gaming is heading in?
Sure. First of all, thanks, Jess, and thanks for the warm intro. And again, really excited to have you all here. I've known you in different capacities, and putting you all together in a panel really is exciting for me. Let me set a bit of context here, and then we can jump right in. As you might already know, we've witnessed an exponential growth in gaming during this last year, which shows no sign of slowing down. Mobile operators across the board see gaming as a huge opportunity now. Cloud gaming, to be specific, presents itself as one of the key use cases for 5G and for mobile edge computing that could help increase traction within the gaming community. We've also seen several tech giants, including Amazon recently, expand into this space alongside several cloud gaming service providers. And to top that, estimates from likes of Newzoo puts gaming on a really positive trajectory. Now, AAA quality games, once available on PC and consoles, became available on mobile, and now you're seeing some really great titles coming to cloud gaming platforms as well, accessible via a simple subscription model. And more importantly, the gaming experience on these platforms, arguably one of the key criteria for adoption, has also come a long way. To that end, we at GameBench, for those who don't know, have developed gaming KPIs, benchmarks, and tools to assess and monitor the quality of experience as perceived by a true gamer, both on native and cloud platforms, on mobile networks, and on home internet. And more recently, we benchmarked 3 popular cloud gaming platforms in the US, only to find really surprisingly positive results when we performed this field test on 4G, 5G, and Wi-Fi. You'll see some of the results in a light paper that Jess mentioned, and that we'll share that shortly with the participants after this panel. Now, all this sounds really promising, but the big question is, are users flocking to these gaming platforms? Will the ultra-low latencies and high bandwidth of 5G truly enable seamless cloud gaming? And are the business models supporting publishers, big and small, to make the transition? There are many more questions that come to my mind, and I hope the discussion today will provide some insights. And on that note, I will hand this back to Jess and back to the panelists.
Thanks for that, Sri. So let's start with Candice. Newzoo have actively published a lot about cloud gaming in the past 12 months, and your optimistic estimate shows the cloud gaming could generate up to $450 million in 2020, growing to $5.1 billion in 2023. Where is that growth coming from?
Yeah, so 2020 has been fantastic for gaming in general, but especially cloud gaming. So the stay-at-home orders have absolutely increased everybody's available time, which leads to more gaming in general. So we had done consumer research in the US, Italy, and Japan. We sent out a survey right around April of 2020 asking people, why are people playing more games? And the most common answer was actually that people had more time. But a second answer was that they were playing for social reasons, to stay connected to people and to use gaming as one of the only socially distance-friendly ways to socialize and have fun. And so what we saw is that if people didn't already have access, to games, there's very easy ways to enter, such as mobile gaming. But if you wanted to play with your friends on a more advanced game, let's say even Fortnite, and you didn't have a gaming PC that could run it, then cloud gaming became a way for you to play with your friends. And so throughout 2020, we saw this interest really grow. In terms of our forecast, which we first put out in 2019, compared to now, we are essentially pulling almost 1 year ahead of where we thought we would be. And in terms of the serviceable, obtainable market, which we define as the people that are aware and conditionally interested in cloud gaming and living where services are available, that number is around 135 million in 2020. And we are looking at a growth rate of approximately 20 to 23%. Of course, the converted rate, the number of paying users is a little bit less than that. It's probably around 10% of the actual people that are aware and conditionally interested in it. But the growth rate has been insane, and also driven by the AAA titles like Cyberpunk 2077, where cloud gaming became one of the best ways to actually play that game. Yeah, we also see the release of so many more services, not just Amazon, as Sri mentioned, but also Tencent is starting to pick up a lot in terms of their cloud gaming activity. So all this to say that growth is definitely happening. People understand that cloud gaming is real, that it works. Even me, 1 year ago, I had no cloud gaming services, and now I literally am subscribed to 3. So that's how fast that this adoption can happen.
Fantastic. And talking about growth in users, let's turn to Patrick. NVIDIA have been at the center of the gaming ecosystem. Any avid PC gamer would know how an RTX card serves them well. You have a great cloud gaming platform in GeForce Now. What are you seeing in terms of personas of gamers that are adopting the platform? Do you see hardcore gamers making the shift or casual gamers flocking to it instead? And how are you attracting both gamers and publishers to your platform? Patrick, you're on mute. Line of
course.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks. So of course, well, I think I am probably the best example of who a cloud gamer should be or is, because my home PC is probably 10 years old. Yes, I know I work at NVIDIA. I should probably be better equipped, but I don't have the time to upgrade the PC. And it's not only the graphics card, by the way, when we do gaming for modern games, it has about to do with the CPU you have in there, the type of storage, you have the quantity of storage with the size of these games that need to be updated on a regular basis. So I have been a bit behind on that, and I have not upgraded my PC. And now I have but I wanted to play, like Candice mentioned, during the time that I had extra for the last few months. A cloud gaming service like GeForce Now is perfect for me. There are also the other typical users, the person that does not necessarily always want to play from the same device. You have families that have Windows PCs in the house, but then they have kids that have Chromebooks. That have been purchased by the family, and these devices may not be so well suited for the modern games. And this is where we see a lot of adoption on those platforms with people that have, like me, PC devices that are not powerful enough, or that they want to play on multiple platforms at the same time. Strangely enough, we've been in beta for quite a while with GeForce Now. And we switched to a subscription. We went out of beta last February. It's a year now, just before the COVID hit, obviously. And demand was a little bit bigger than we may have planned for. And there's a lot of equipment that needs to be put in the cloud. So we've worked hard on fixing that by investing to put the necessary hardware. Because at the end of the day, when you're a cloud gamer, what you do a timeshare of a gaming PC rig that is set in the cloud. And but that's a complex setup, and we have actually worked a lot with telcos to work on that expansion, to have them invest and put this equipment inside of their data centers, which gives some technical benefits, as we can elaborate a little bit further today. So we have more than 6 million subscribers right now in a year. That's quite significant, and it's growing fast. Another topic that I would like to cover today in more details is content, because obviously it's one thing to have the technical platform to support cloud gaming, but if the games you want to play are not there, that then becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Thanks, Patrick. So moving on to Matt from AT&T, it feels like the data thus far presents a compelling story for cloud gaming, and it feels like it's all about 5G now. We've heard of several killer apps as use cases for 5G. Is cloud gaming one of those? And broadly speaking, where is gaming on AT&T's radar?
Yeah, thanks. So I think the advent of cloud gaming is probably inevitable. If we look back at the history of any digitally delivered goods that we've seen, since the rise of the internet, initially web surfing and then social media and video streaming, and now gaming. What we saw was initially you had adoption of some of these capabilities on fixed broadband networks, and you had great experiences. People were web browsing, but in order to see the same website, you couldn't see the same websites on your on a mobile device that you could on your PC at home. You had maybe there were special kind of slimmed down mobile only websites, not because the screen real estate was different. You see some of that today, but because the network connectivity wasn't strong enough. Saw the same thing with social media. Those platforms grew up initially on PCs and transitioned to mobile to reach larger audiences. Streaming video is an excellent example. With the rise of many of those platforms on PC, and it's not until the advent of the higher speed LTE networks did that become something realistic that you could use and enjoy on mobile networks. So there's this trend of people want their content and they want it anywhere. Web browsing, social media, video, and now gaming. Gaming is just the next form of content. It's the next form of entertainment. It doesn't replace the ones we've seen previously. It adds to it, but people will want it everywhere. We see that a tremendous growth in mobile gaming. It's actually, I'm sure Candace could tell us, is close to half of total gaming revenues across the world. But typically you have to play different games. You have to make a choice of playing different games on a mobile device than you would love kind of to play in your home on a console or PC. Cloud gaming promises to change that. You can the ability to take the games you love and use those on any device and take those games everywhere. What's needed and what kind of prevents that from happening is connectivity. We need the next advance in connectivity in order to make that happen. And 5G is going to be what does that. The ability of 5G and beyond 5G, even making sure people's broadband networks are capable of supporting this with high-speed fiber networks to be able to provide services that are fast. You have the speed you need to deliver the connectivity. Again, both 5G and fiber can do that. They have to be reliable so that in the middle of a game you're not having problems. People care about the security of this, both the privacy and security of their networks. And another key thing, especially we see some people being concerned about, is those connectivity options need to be unlimited. You've got to, people need to not be worrying about hitting data caps and running out of their data on services. So 5G and fiber can provide all of those services that are fast, reliable, secure, and unlimited for the customers. So I don't know, killer app is kind of a scary word to use. Sometimes it almost implies that there's a silver bullet out there that's going to solve all the woes of the world. But I think cloud gaming is definitely going to be a really important use case for 5G today and in the future. And AT&T at AT&T, we believe gaming is one of the best and clearest use cases for 5G, and are really excited about the work we're doing in that space and the possibilities for it, how we can enhance our network so that we're not just talking about making the claim that, oh, it's the next G, so of course it's better, but that we have a network that's optimized particularly for gaming services and can provide an enhanced capabilities for customers, that we can help bring products to the customers and have a great experience for all.
Fantastic. So moving on to Gino, you work extensively with operators and ISPs. Do you also see this positive trend in adoption for cloud gaming? How far do you think we are from delivering a close to local gaming experience via your local ISP?
That's a great question. So there probably isn't a week or a couple times a week that goes by that I don't get a call from a tier 1 or tier 2 operator from around the world saying, I need to be the best gaming ISP in my country. Like, what do I need to do? Then you go through the whole process of educating them about, it's not just about having the best technology. I think, Matthew and Patrick and Candace said it well. There's content in there. There's what matters to a gamer. If you say I have best latency, great. What does that do for my kill death ratio? I have the best latency. I have, so there's a whole process of educating the providers. And maybe I see a little bit of a different angle from it, because when I tell them, what, there's gaming and then there's cloud gaming. And they're like, well, it's all the same, isn't it? I'm like, no. So if I spend 2 hours playing Apex Legend, I may send, maybe 500 megs of traffic over that 2-hour period. So if you do cloud gaming, that'll be 500 gigs of traffic. And they're like, oh my God, how do I handle that? Like, what do I need to do? And so it's very scary for them because they see it coming. I think Matthew was right. I like calling cloud gaming the great equalizer. Everybody likes to watch gaming. So gaming isn't just about the playing, it's also about watching. There's a huge community that spends time watching and understanding it. And everybody wants to emulate the ninjas and all the other guys that are playing there. And not everybody can afford the same type of gaming rigs and whatnot. So cloud gaming really becomes a great equalizer. Like, I can play on par with some of the best players using this technology. So it makes advanced gaming and high quality gaming available to everybody. So for me, when I look at this, I try to translate all of the amazing things that the Nokia Bell Labs and the industry is doing into terms that matter to a gamer. So they'll tell me, we developed this really great queuing algorithm. I'm like, and I said, great. And he says, no, it reduced latency by X. I said, awesome. How do I sell that? Now, what does that mean to a gamer? Is that going to help me? So really it's educating people for that. So for the last couple of years, I've had to ingrain myself. I have 2 teenagers. So if I want to connect with them on any meaningful level, I got a game. So, I have my own Twitch stream channel on Friday nights, and I play Apex, and I play on GeForce now and everything else. And that taught me a lot of things. Eating your own dog food. There's a lot of stuff we were doing in Nokia that we thought, this is great. I'm like, no, it's not for a gamer. And so we built these real world labs where we use real broadband connections, and we test the technology to understand, what, over the last month, my kill death ratio on Apex has improved by 20%. I went from 0.6 to 0.8. That is something that I can sell. This is something Matthew can take to his customers and say, our service is going to make a better gaming. But cloud gaming is a different beast. It's something that's very attractive. And I think we do have the right technology in place now to really be able to address it. We have the capacity, we have the technology, and we have the content, and we have the platforms from NVIDIA and others. And I love the fact that Candace can back that up by numbers now. So it's not just us trying to sell something, it's really there.
Fantastic, great stuff. Thanks, Gino. So let's open up the questions to the panel. The first one that we wanted to get into is, as an ecosystem, how can we, as individual players in the value chain, help each other in increasing adoption rates?
Anyone can go.
I can
Well,
maybe
Patrick, you want to start?
Topic there. So
Yeah.
one of the, as Gino was mentioning, one of the important aspects for the adoption of cloud gaming is quality of service. And because, you're playing a real-time game, it's not like you're watching a movie, which can be buffered, and most of the movie consumption application, they have a couple of seconds of buffer on the client devices to go against any fluctuation you might get on your network, especially if you're on a wireless network, as most people know. And so performance of the wireless networks for 5G, a lot of people have talked about latency. It reduces latency significantly, which is important. There's a certain budget you need in order for the round trip of your frame with your click that you're doing. But quality of service is more than just latency. It has to do with frame drops that you normally get. You can get frame ordering that will create stutter. And we have been involved with the telco companies, the operators, to make sure that the system that we use gets the frame in the way it is expected. And if we identify some flaws in any network, then we reached out to those telcos to make sure that this is identified. And sometimes they put the finger on exactly what it is. So working with the telcos and the publishers also, who sometimes have to adapt their software to take into consideration that the game can be played on a smaller screen. So there's a lot of work that has been done to make cloud gaming happening, and that's why we are where we are today. Quality of service, in my opinion, is important, and there's a lot of discussions going there.
Matt, you're going to say something.
Yeah, in this space, I think to drive adoption, that content is key, and a huge driver for cloud gaming in general. Now, cloud gaming has a big advantage over kind of structurally over some of the other platforms that are out there. We've heard talk about Patrick has got a 10-year-old PC. It takes money to invest to kind of update those things. But quite frankly, even the latest gen consoles are either hard to come by or that's a pretty significant outlay. When you think cloud gaming, the ability to play on any screen, any device that you've got, if you've got good connectivity, that increases the audience, the aperture, of who you can reach with games dramatically. So kind of check for cloud gaming. You've got a huge audience that should attract more content. But some of the capabilities, what I think we'll see evolve is cloud gaming also has the opportunity to start allowing publishers to reach consumers in a more direct fashion with direct to consumer offerings. If we look at the history, and we do this a lot, and the analogy is not perfect, but you look at you draw analogies from the subscription video on demand business to gaming. And what we see is, originally you have aggregators, whether it's an MVPD, a cable provider, television service provider, aggregating a bunch of content. But what you see now is you see a different sort of, you see all these direct to consumer offerings that are just proliferating greatly. There's a huge incentive for the content producers to come up with direct to consumer models for to reach customers. And then customers don't, they may keep their aggregation service, but they often have multiple subscription services. But you can also, in addition, not to say everything's going to go to subscription, you can still buy, oh, that movie I want is on this service over here, I'm going to go buy it on that service. I'm not going to buy a subscription to it, I just want to buy that one movie. Cloud gaming gets, if we can enable direct consumer models in cloud gaming, that will empower the publishers greatly in order to reach customers in a more direct fashion. Will increase the incentives for them to do it. Will kind of increase their own bottom lines. They'll have more direct monetization of those. They'll own the customer relationships and the customer data more than they do so today on the usage of that. So kind of increasing content by doing things to enable these direct to consumer models with which require, as we said, you got to have great connectivity in order to support this. And then the platforms that are coming out, we're starting to see them that are not capabilities where you can really have a platform that could be used. You don't need all of these different companies out there in subscription video on demand. They don't necessarily all build their own streaming engine. They're kind of kits and SDKs and capabilities that they can have and kind of piece together parts and take best of breed things. And we're starting to see that evolve in the cloud gaming space as well, which over time here is really going to transform the industry and the ability of these publishers to both big and small to get their content out there and reach the huge audiences that cloud gaming will have available to it.
Yeah, and I love hearing the different angles that Patrick and Matthew bring, because for me it's a little bit different. And I'll give you a good example on the QoS, and that ties in what Patrick and Matthew were saying. Is I had a CSP that said, you know what, we're struggling, and that was last year. They're like, we have the worst rating for GeForce Now, the cloud gaming service, and we don't understand why. So I sat down with them, and he showed me, like, over 30 minutes when we played, our average latency was 80 millisecond. That's plenty good. I don't get it. I'm like, okay, but as Patrick was saying, it's not just about the average latency. How many times did you hit 200 millisecond? Oh, well, 10 times. Said 10 times in 1 hour, your gamer suffered. You got the stuttering just like you used to do 10 years ago for OTT video and all that. I said, that's a sucky experience. You got to stop worrying about your average latency. You got to look about the end-to-end quality. You need a new set of metrics. You need to work with NVIDIA. You need to work with the content providers. You can't just do it on your own. So I love what Mike, you said, because really the industry is at a crossroad where everybody finally needs to be able to come together to make this a reality, enable the adoption, and enable also, to your point, the publisher having a direct relationship with the customer as well. I mean, that's critical. And lucky that AT&T is way ahead of the game on some of this stuff, but because some of the people that I talk to, like, there's a lot of education that still needs to happen so they can understand the mechanics of it. It's not just about delivering IP and bytes. It's about delivering a good quality of service experience. And those two things don't always correlate. So
on that note, can I ask a question?
That's great, Gino. It's the long tail of latency that
absolutely
that kills you, literally kills you when you're in
I like the pun.
Literally kills
Nice.
you. Yeah.
So Patrick, I mean, a lot relies on the platform itself. And again, we mentioned, Gino mentioned Apex Legends, Cyberpunk, and we talk about titles. It looks, and Matt is constantly talking about content. And how is that being enabled? That was one part of the question. How do we enable more people to put content? Is it going to be easier in the future that I just click my fingers and my content is everywhere? What is it going to take us to get more content from different people?
It's challenging for the publishers when you throw at them a new platform that they have to optimize for. I mean, they already have PlayStation, they have Xbox. Thankfully for GeForce Now, we're based on the GeForce Windows PC platform, which pretty much every modern game have been optimized for. So for a publisher, the technical challenge of making their game compatible for the GeForce Now platform is kind of small, given that the work has already been done. And we have a big team of DevRel person that work with the game publishers to optimize for the PC games on Windows, on the GeForce Now cards, on the GeForce cards. So we kind of get this as a free in, and that's probably one of the reasons why we have so far more than 800 titles that have been onboarded on the platform, and there's contract for even to double that probably this year, as opposed to some other platform where the platform design requires some serious optimization from the publisher, who may not necessarily have the resources or the bandwidth or the money to invest in supporting such a platform. So that makes it challenging for them, and that was one of the reasons why we decided to go with the PC platform as a backend for the GeForce Now infrastructure. There's also the transaction. I mean, let's say I'm a gamer, I've purchased the game already and I've played it on my PC at home, if I had one that was not 10 years old, but assume I do. And then I happen to be on the road, or I happen to be in a different room in my house, and I will play it on a cloud gaming platform. What if I have to buy the game again to play it on that platform? That makes it challenging, and it's kind of putting a hold on many people to address that. So with GeForce Now, whatever you purchased on a PC will carry over to the game, as long as the game is supported. Obviously, we don't support all the games yet, but there is the vast majority of the popular game, and I think also total of 80 free-to-play games that have been on board on the platform. That is one of the reasons why the growth has been so successful so far. And we're trying to support those publishers to make sure that they can support the platform as well. But it's a fairly limited effort, at least for GeForce Now.
So Shri, maybe something interesting for Candace, because this is what just happened to me last week. My daughter said, "Hey, I'd like to buy this game." And without realizing it, the first thing that came to mind is, great, I don't want to buy it 5 times. Is this something you can play on the cloud gaming service? Can you play it on your PC? Can you play it on your phone? Can you, and it just dawned on me, holy crap, is this becoming a decision factor now, that consumers will go to AAA games, especially if it's available on a cloud gaming service, so they can experience it in the home, on any device or anything. I was curious to see if that's the kind of trends that you see, Candace.
Well, the interesting behavior that we see right now is the early adopters of cloud gaming are the ultimate gamers. So they are gamers that have gaming machines, they have consoles or they have PCs, and they just want to unlock the ability to play it anywhere. So yeah, they will buy GeForce Now because if they travel to their relative's house or something for a month, they would like to be able to play their games there. We do see the willingness in ultimate gamers to buy the same game twice. And I think that this is kind of interesting when you look at the retro gaming trend that is happening. So there's like a lot of remakes and it's publishers monetizing really the same content that may have been released 10 years ago. So there is willingness among the ultimate gamers to do that. But of course, if they have an option where they just can buy it once and then they have it on any platform and they can use it anywhere, that's a stronger value proposition. It's more related to the ecosystems though, and where their friends are. So most of the time people are motivated to be in the same world. So if your friends are Switch world or your Xbox world, that's probably the strongest motivator for somebody to choose an ecosystem.
And Candice, can I ask, as you're on the point and we're talking to you, you presented a really nice view of the market, what we're seeing, the growth, the adoption. I think it looks promising. I would invest if I had more money. But at the same time, you also see trends more recently with Stadia and Hatch. What do you think is happening in the market? What needs to be adjusted? Because I think it to me shows signs that either two parts, there's more education that's needed, right? I mean, it's not just going to work out of the box. It's a new ecosystem that we're building. At the same time, there will be fallouts like this. What do you think is happening? And where do you think this trend is going to take us? Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think the Stadia's decision to not continue to invest in their first party titles is not a negative thing for the overall cloud gaming market. We see a lot of growth coming in other areas, for example, like in China, and Tencent has a lot of services. And now Luna also has, or Amazon has Luna. And there's other smaller services like GameStream that are expanding through telcos in a lot of other countries. So Stadia's, let's say Stadia's strategy, maybe the fact that they weren't an endemic gaming brand like GeForce is or like Xbox is, made it a little bit more of a struggle. It doesn't mean that the technology doesn't work or that there isn't interest in cloud gaming. These people will most likely go to a different service such as PlayStation Now or xCloud. That's clear. For Hatch was a little bit too early to the market almost. It was a 5G is infrastructure rollout. It's taking a little bit longer than expected. And when Hatch was announced, that was before all of the big services had announced their plans. So that was before Luna, that was before Stadia. And I think, when you're going up against big players like that, there will be some consolidation. It will be hard for, sort of everybody to succeed. But for right now, we're still in the growth phase, absolutely. And there's still more services that are out there, like Antstream, which is a cloud gaming service focused on retro. So I still believe that the future for cloud gaming is strong. The use case is there, the interest is there. Whether or not a particular service is a winner or loser in the next couple of years, that may change. But overall, the idea is you can't put the cat back in the bag. And I think the strongest thing that people may not be thinking about right now is the new types of games that will actually be available. So Amazon has already announced that they're working on new types of streamer viewer games. And it's these type of experiences which is going to really help drive adoption. Types of games and experiences you can't get anywhere else. I know Mainframe Industries is also working on cloud native games. And there's other publishers as well that are interested in this space. And most likely the innovation is going to come from the smaller publishers that are more willing to take chances. Whereas the biggest publishers like Blizzard, they're pretty comfortable. They don't need to do anything in cloud gaming at the moment. So yeah, you will see.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. I mean, you look back at the history. Whenever there's a new gaming platform, the first thing you tend to see is just ports of the last generation's games because they, maybe run better on the new platform, and we're seeing that in some cases. Cyberpunk is the one that everybody holds up as, an example of something that didn't work great on the last generation of platforms, works great on many of the cloud gaming platforms. But when we're just starting to see some of these new capabilities, some of them kind of built into the platform itself. Talking about Stadia, they've got some cool capabilities with that are just starting to be worked into some of the games, crowd choice, crowd play. But what are the those new capabilities that are going to be enabled in the platforms and by the developers and the publishers that are really going to create that first hit in the cloud gaming space, the Angry Birds of the smartphone era that showed everybody, oh, that's what you can do with this new device. That's what we're all waiting for right now, and it will come. And as you said, maybe from a smaller developer, not necessarily one of the big ones.
But I do like the idea of tying in the traditional TV, movie, entertainment with the gaming. I mean, there's some concepts we've been evaluating that what if you add that real-time capability, the power of like the RTX technology that Patrick has and everything else. And what could you do? Like in the past, everything was done in non-real time. You want to do product placement in a movie, great, or in a game, great. But you know what? You can do this real time now. How would you like to be, a background character in a game or something like that and whatnot? And how would you like a game affecting a TV series that just started and vice versa? So there are things I think that will come on the innovation space. I don't think we're there. And I think Matthew and Candace are right, but people are thinking about it. Now, there's so much that could be done once you have a platform like that and the capability, the edge computing and the power of 5G and everything else. You're going to see a whole new era. Today, people game, and the phase 2 was people playing games, streaming themselves playing games, and create a community. Millions of people watching it. But what if you had the power to impact how the game progresses and how the games progress, maybe with a TV series and all that? So I'm waiting for the Netflix of the world and whatnot to come knocking at the door, because I think this is really what's going to become some of the really cool stuff that you can do with that kind of technology.
Talk about the next generation of storytelling is
exactly absolutely
the integration
right.
of gaming and other content.
Absolutely.
What's important for that to happen in terms of the publisher willing to invest there, or the company is associated from a technical perspective with there, is the size of the opportunity. If it's only 100,000 people somewhere, then publishers may not be interested by that. Once you reach 10 million users or more, you become a sizable opportunity. And that publisher will then be considered to invest in that opportunity. And I believe now cloud gaming has reached that point, and I'm aware of things that are being worked on, and I'm looking forward for announcements that will come in that direction to make everybody happy.
So one thing we spoke about often was quality of service, and this is something that constantly came up in conversations. And cloud gaming presents its own challenge. What do you think are the key challenges now? I mean, again, we as GameBench, as I mentioned, we measured how Stadia works and GeForce works in Boston and a bunch of other cities connected to different networks. And we analyzed these results, and some of it is great, some of it needs to work. But we have to work as a collective. How do you explain, because it's a long chain of events which take place from a user's keypad or a gamepad all the way to the game server and back, and that's a long chain of events where all of us have a role to play. How do you define what needs to be done here, and where are the choke points at the moment? And part of this is also mobile edge computing, Matt, which probably is completely in your territory at the moment. It would be great for you guys to talk about these impediments that we have at the moment to deliver the QoS.
Yeah, so that's kind of a connectivity question. So maybe I'll start. It's not just enough to say that 5G is going to solve the problems of cloud gaming on mobile devices. That's not enough to say that you can go out there and say, okay, I've deployed 5G, I'm good. That's not enough. 5G, just like previous networks, are not, unfortunately, it's a shared it's a shared resource when you're connected to a cell tower, and bandwidth can get congested with lots of users on there. So, but there are things that operators can do in order to improve those now, and not necessarily, the next generation of capabilities could look like network slices for specific to gaming, but even in advance of that, in order to try to identify gaming traffic and treat it a little bit differently than other traffic services, and really, optimize and enhance the network capabilities for gaming. Edge compute is an important capability of that. If you we talked about 50 milliseconds of delay is probably great for almost any game out there, and any gamer, as long as you don't have the peaks up to 20 milliseconds. But for maybe for an esports player, a professional, somebody whose livelihood depends on this, 50 milliseconds may not be what they want. And edge compute, in addition to 5G capabilities, but also edge compute for even on a broadband fiber network or something like that, will be an important capability to even drag down that average, so that not even we're not talking about 50 milliseconds, we're talking about 20 milliseconds or something like that. So even the most discriminating player has no concern or fear of playing on a cloud gaming network and impacting their kill to death ratio, as Gina was talking about, for their gameplay.
Absolutely right, Matthew. It's not just one thing that's to be addressed. When we talk about the quality of service, it's a whole ecosystem. Sure, you got the network. Sure, you got Wi-Fi, it's a big issue, and all that stuff. And there's tons of technology that's being developed to address that. So Nokia, we're doing our part. But when I talk to the service providers, I got to say, guys, it's more than that. You got to bring the edge computing. And they're like, well, I got to put all this money. I'm going to make money off of it. I said, well, the monetization aspect has to be a core thing. Like Matthew said, the core gamer, that 50 millisecond versus 30 millisecond makes a big difference to them. And you know what? They're willing to pay a premium for that. I mean, they'll pay, I don't want to shame Patrick on the cost of the RTX still, because it's in such limited supply, but they'll pay a lot of money just to get a couple more frames per second. Everybody's looking for that. So you know what? They're more than willing to pay a couple dollars more, so that, because having a 50 meg connection or a 500 meg connection or 1 gig connection, the 500 megabit connection does not make you a better gamer than the 50 megabit connection at the end of the day. Sure, if you have the bandwidth, great, but it's having a service provider that understands the ecosystem. You need the great technology on the Wi-Fi, the 5G, and all that stuff, but they also need a partnership with the cloud gaming providers, with the peering, with all of the rest. So it's a difficult situation or question tree, but I think we know all the elements. It's just a matter of putting it all together now.
Data caps is also an important factor. There's a lot of providers that are still limiting the data for their subscribers. That's a bit of a challenge for many of the cloud gamers. So I admire when some of the operators have unlimited or exposed much higher limits. I mean, the modern day requires that these days. And just right away to conclude on that, we've looked at the data on what people do with GeForce Now on 4G versus 5G. We've seen significant improvements in terms of quality between the two, just by default, and with the optimization have been done so far. So 5G is very much welcome for that industry. And also it can be used as well, and now it's becoming used in the home, because there's going to be some 5G modems that will be used too, instead of a network connection inside the house. So there's definitely a future. Sure, I think you wanted to say something.
Now, I was going to go just back to Gino's point, because both Matt and Gino mentioned the kill death ratio as a way to really assess how good that experience really is, the QoS in a way, because I could be getting an unlimited data cap. I could be getting the best latency, but if I'm still getting killed, then that's a problem. Does it mean that we first, as an ecosystem, need to understand gaming a bit more and not just expect that just because I'm connected to 5G, I'm going to get the best of everything? that education, where does it start? What is it that we need to learn more as an ecosystem so that we can work in a way top down?
You know what? Do what Candace and I have been doing. Start playing games. And I know I'm not good at it. I mean, I can't hang with all the good players and all that stuff, but I try. But it took me 2 years of playing, every Friday and Saturday nights. And my wife thinks I'm crazy at my age, doing that and streaming. But you know what? If I want to understand how technology works, how to make it better, I had to become a gamer. And it's not something that you can just do in one session. It's over time. What matters to a gamer. When I do have bad latency, when I see lagging, then I stop and I say, okay, what is going on? Was this my Wi-Fi? Was stuff? And I spend the time analyzing it, or was it a peering issue, or was it something else during the network? But you know what? If you want to understand it, you got to walk a mile in their shoes. You got to see what matters to them. And at least for me, that's what I had to do. I had to ingrain myself and do this and learn how to play again.
So guys, we're coming up towards the last final questions. We're going to open up Q&A, and we're just inundated with questions and they're still coming through. So thank you everyone for submitting your questions. I think some of them were already answered with regards to Stadia and exclusive content. There's a question from Max, who is interested in knowing that we are increasingly seeing two primary cloud gaming business models emerging. The first, offering access to powerful hardware in the cloud for end users to play their own software on their own software. The second being the Netflix-esque curated library model. Do you think there is room for both models to thrive, and which do you think has the higher upside in the long term?
I can probably start answering this because we've been dealing with that ourselves at NVIDIA for quite a while. And the model that we have chosen is where you are renting a gaming gear in the cloud, and you bring the content that you already owned. We've worked on the model of putting together game packs, and that allows you to pay a certain amount and consume as much as you want within that library of content. The observations that we have seen is that this 20-80 rule, where 80% of the time is spent on 20% of the content. And I think for cloud gaming, it's probably even bigger than that. I would say it's 90 or 95% of the time is spent on 5-10%, the top 20 games out there. So the value of this all-you-can-eat game pack, it's nice. People love, we've observed that people love to play this retro game and play it then, but they may not be playing it for a long time or playing it as often as you may be willing to consume Netflix content that still potentially is valuable. There's a trend in gaming which appears to be heavily focused on the latest and greatest, as long as you have the hardware to play it, obviously, which that's why I use cloud gaming.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. This one is from Juan. In multiple internet forums, I see consensus when it comes to cloud gaming being the future, but ultimately content is what matters, and that requires expensive agreement with publishers. Does NVIDIA have any plans in place to reach agreements with major publishers? And also, what's the view on exclusivity?
So we actually have, as I mentioned earlier, we already have 800 titles that are published on our platform. We have contracts in place to double that this year easily. It's a question of onboarding those games and everything. And again, focusing the time on what the people want to play. There's a couple of games that we have not yet been able to onboard. The beauty of the GeForce Now platform is that, as I mentioned earlier, the optimization of the game is, the work to optimize the game is limited. You don't need to, for the publisher doesn't need to spend that much time. There are obviously some key publishers that have yet to release their content to any cloud gaming platform, and it's sometimes because they may not have finalized what's their cloud gaming strategy. And quite a few of these were cautious at the beginning, says, well, what am I going to do with this? We are not involved in the transaction of the game itself at NVIDIA, because you acquire this via Steam or other places where you normally purchase your games on PC. So there's a trend for game publishers to be willing to support that our platform, because they don't have to slice the pie again one more time for when somebody wants to purchase the game. They get transactions done directly between the publisher and the gamer. I think that helps. There are some cases where platforms may want to have unique titles, obviously, to attract more persons to their platform. We're not in that model ourselves. Some other may have tried to do this. That's very political discussions, I guess. But from that perspective, this is not an approach that we have been using so far.
Thanks, Patrick. So final question for Q&A is around emerging markets. This question is from someone who chose to be anonymous. So in countries like India, where 5G is still a couple of years away and broadband connectivity and penetration is still very low, but with large interest and monetization opportunity, what will be the roadmap here? Now, Candice, I know we spoke last week about some of the trends that you're seeing in terms of console frog leaping. Would you like to expand on that?
Sorry, what was the end part about console?
So what are you seeing in terms of emerging markets around the world adopting cloud gaming platforms?
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because the interest in the emerging markets is actually some of the strongest because they're generally mobile first countries because of the accessibility and the access, and the big, AAA titles haven't actually been very easily available. It's like actually very expensive to have a gaming PC or a console, and then also have the connectivity in a lot of emerging regions. But the demand is there, the interest is there to participate and to play games like Cyberpunk 2077. And I think especially in India and Latin America, the rise of Free Fire and PUBG Mobile absolutely exploded in developing regions, including MENA over the last year, shows the demand for core games there. And mobile is the platform of choice because it is the most accessible. So cloud opens up the door now to AAA or to the full size PUBG. To these regions. I think the problem though is not really the demand or the interest. The problem is still going to be the infrastructure. And COVID also delayed 5G developments, for example, and there are other infrastructure delays as well. So it's more of a time rather than an interest or demand question.
And is there an operator view here, Matt? I'm just curious because obviously this is a mobile first opportunity in developing countries. What can operators do to tap into that?
Well, developing countries, AT&T obviously, we're focused here in the United States, but the problem of 5G networks are huge investments, and you've in order to recoup that investment, new ways of monetizing, the infrastructure and the investment are necessary. The mobile market isn't, at least, everybody's got a smartphone. It's not exactly growing. People don't want to just, see bills go up, and most, very many people have unlimited plans anyway. So kind of charging more for more usage is somewhat out of favor. But what we do think is, new models that can enable that help enable the quality of service, and aren't necessarily, they may not be applicable for all individuals, but they don't only have to be sold. Those don't only have to be targeted towards individuals. They're business models, when we talk about edge computing, for instance, that could see partnerships, between telcos like AT&T and cloud providers in order to enable edge and monetize from that direction, and then have specific services for customers. So kind of two-sided models, but it is really important in order to be able to recoup the investment that we're all making in these 5G networks. Nobody is not going to deploy 5G networks. I have to say it's the next evolution of technology. It kind of has to come along. But our investors are going to demand returns on that, and so finding creative ways to monetize those investments are really important.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that, Matt. Jess, back to you.
So we're going to have to wrap things up now. Thanks, everyone. We're at the hour. Such a riveting conversation. A copy of this will be shared with everyone that has attended. And also there will be a light paper that goes out, as I mentioned, which covers gamer-centric metrics that GameBench have been working on. One final thing is stay tuned for our next panel on March the 18th, when we'll be dissecting some of the technical challenges we face today and how we as players in the ecosystem can work together to overcome these challenges. I'd just like to thank the panel and thank the audience very much for attending today. Share your feedback. We'd love to know who's been following. Keep the questions coming. We've just been inundated with dozens and dozens of questions. So, great to have your interest here. So thanks, everyone, and stay well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care. Speak soon.
Thank you.